Fox News, I'm Tom Graham. White House Middle East negotiator Jared Kushner wrapping up his meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu after the Israeli leader rejected a U.S. proposed roadmap for a ceasefire in Gaza.
We had a very, very good meeting. We were there for almost 4 hours with him and his team going through all the different details. I think there were some valid concerns that they raised that we were able to address.
A day earlier, Kushner met for 2 hours with the Hamas chief. Immigration and Customs Enforcement in the U.S. says agents arrested a Brazilian fugitive convicted of aggravated murder.
I said Macon Salto dos Reis was arrested earlier this month in what it called a targeted operation. According to the agency, Dos Reis was convicted by a Brazilian court in 2024, but illegally entered the U.S. in June of that year.
Fox's Grinal Scott, America is listening to Fox News.
Marijuana, pot, weed, and Mary Jane. Don't trade your time for fun because it may injure your brain. Be smart, don't start. Waste your potential. Stay in the race, keep out of the haze. Stay THC smart.
Stay THC smart and don't start. Brought to you by Johnny'sAmbassadors.org.
When a child is struggling with their mental health, the adults around them can make all the difference. Parents, teachers, coaches, anyone who shows up in a child's life. Because in those tough moments, kids are looking to the grown-ups around them for support.
If you're at school having a bad day, you just don't want to do anything.
I just get these thoughts like, do better. All my little emotions in my head is just running crazy. I don't know what to do.
As a teacher or coach, do you ever feel overwhelmed?
He's just in tears in the huddle. I was like, what's wrong? And he's just like, I'm just so frustrated. And I didn't know what to do.
None of my undergraduate studies talked about mental health.
Teachers need tons of help.
That's why the Kids Mental Health Foundation provides free expert-developed tools and resources to help adults support the kids they care about.
Having those resources is the same as the CPR class to me. We're trying to save a life here.
Because when adults feel supported, kids do too. Kids Mental Health starts with us. Find free resources at kidsmentalhealthfoundation.org.
The number 3, one of the most important and powerful numbers on so many levels. And for your wallet, it's powerful at InSaneRadioDeals.com. Enter the promo code FIRE at checkout for 33.3% off the list price of select items. Liberty Flames individual game tickets, Liberty Flames season tickets for the upcoming football season, and Hill City Howlers skyboxes and general admission with a $10 food voucher. All through the end of August. 33.3% off the list price of those items when you enter the promo code FIRE at checkout.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, and asking your smart speaker, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane and JJ Hendrickson.
So full disclosure, 2 things. 1, my wife is the field hockey coach at EC Glass High School. Second of all, I have a little bit of inside knowledge and access to how things work over there and have been tipped off about some of the challenges that the football team and all athletic programs for the Hilltoppers have been facing this fall, particularly the ones that practice at EC Glass. I know cross country is in season, but cross country teams like to use the track. It does not exist either, as there is video evidence for our TrostLaw.com Fast Take. Was over there earlier today. It's up. Fast Lane, Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, where you can also check out all the links, including many of the bites we're about to play with you, for you, a little bit later in this first segment in the Fast Lane. We bring all that in about EC Glass because that no practice field has created an obstacle already to start the season. Not to mention, they were 2-5 at the midpoint of last year, rallied to go 5-5. They lost to JF in the first round of the playoffs, fought hard, but the Cavaliers, in just unbiased opinion, were the better team last year, as evidenced by their trip to the state semifinals. They rallied and showed resolve. But learning how to battle through adversity, it's already hit the Hilltoppers football team. They have to bus over to City Stadium. Now, granted, again, keep in mind, and this is not me throwing shade, it's just the reality, football often gets first dibs as far as who would get to practice on their schedule at City Stadium. But to their credit, they've organized it. They have been very proactive in that. And if anything, they've taken the right attitude among the Seminole District football teams for their adversity. Plenty of other programs are as well. Remember, everybody is officially 0-0, although teams played a scrimmage last week. They've got another one coming up. We will have Jefferson Forest against Patrick Henry, 6:45 or so airtime this coming Thursday. That is bonus coverage, by the way. We're not officially promoting it or billing it. It's to just go through it's our own version of the preseason. But we bring all that up to say there's still a level of that, but you're already putting adversity in front of your teams. Glass is in a unique spot, but to them, and I love this from head coach Jamar Lovelace, no practice field, no problem.
Not having down moments, the way we practice now very much mimics a game. We have half times every day. So like we're practicing what it's like to go inside and take a 20-minute break and to have to come back out, warm up, perform again. We're getting a new track and a new turf. So we're practicing at City Stadium now. So we've already practiced at City Stadium more this year than we have, for the last 3 years. I think that means something. Everything matters come Friday nights. And one of the things that we really want to do is make City Stadium feel more like home for us. Not a neutral site game that we're showing up to for the first time all week, just like our opponent, but a place that like really feels like home. So for us, getting on the bus and going to City Stadium is it's something that we signed up to do, and we're going to use that as a benefit. And I think just all those things just tie into where we are mentality-wise.
Mentality-wise. Look, that's kind of it with this team because, again, we have a unique vantage point on the Hilltoppers and what they went through last year. JF obliterated them in the first game. Non-competitive by halftime. It was perhaps, I can't speak to every Glass game, but of their 10 regular season games, I would say it may have been the worst game they played last year in terms of just if it could go wrong, it went wrong, and then it compounded to be worse for them. And you're going to have those games at different junctures of your program development. But part of that is also last year's team, when they lost to Jefferson Forest in the middle of that 2-5 start, just did not look like a Hilltoppers team that knew how to handle adversity. When it imploded against JF, it imploded and just kept going south. And there was so little doubt about the running clock in the second half that there was not like a mathematical scenario where there would not be a running clock. And that's not normal for the Black and Blue Bowl. Now, to Glass, in their credit, they rallied. They won their last 3 regular season games. They looked a lot more competitive in that playoff game, which, by the way, was on the road at JF, and it was in the playoffs. And yes, I think there was some tension from JF of just trying to overcome the last couple of years of playoff disappointment, including 2023 when they lost, or 2024, when they lost it was 23 or 24, getting my dates confused. One of those years when they lost, it was 23, by the way. They lost to JF in the first round of the playoffs, in the second round of the playoffs, after having beaten them in the regular season. So I think that was all kind of scar tissue. But to Glass's credit, they fought last year. But they need to put themselves through a lot. And I love the approach and the attitude for Jamar Lovelace. There are a number of touch points for this. But one of them is just elaborating on the fact that they are going through all sorts of things in terms of practice routines to the point where, I'm not joking, they are simulating games in how they practice, which means they're practicing hard for a chunk of time. They are taking a 15 to 20-minute halftime break to mimic what it's like to go through halftime and stress the players and the coaches, as Jamar Lovelace mentioned, practice being for both.
And then we're given some sort of instruction because while we're in the locker room at halftime, we also want to practice, having to lock in for that 15 minutes and talk about adjustments. Football is a game of adjustments. And, every coach will tell you we come in with the plan on Friday night. Usually that plan has to be altered somewhat early in the first half. And then halftime is like that last chance you get to get the attention of your team, draw something up on the board, and really talk about ways to be successful in the second half. So all that has to be mimicked in practice, even the intensity of coaches. So if you wait till Friday night to turn up the heat, I think some of your guys can be caught off guard by that. So that's something we're mimicking as a coaching staff. We got the heat turned up from the time we're stretching to the time we're coming out the locker room at halftime to when we're ending. So we're really trying to make the atmosphere and the environment as game-like as possible. We're doing a lot of talking, a lot of yelling. We want chaos out there because that's what Friday nights are like. And the more we recreate that environment, the more familiar we're going to be when it does come.
Like, you could say that Jamar Lovelace and the staff are going overboard on it because, like, not only are they doing that, but like my logical question at Seminole District Football Media Days is, all right, if you're taking halftime at practice to simulated, are you pretending there's overtime at random points? Like, are we putting ourselves in unfair situations? And Jamar Lovelace, to his ever-loving credit, was open with us and said, yeah, we kind of are.
Usually it's some sort of conditioning. We like to tell guys, you got 2 left, and then we might throw an extra 3 or 4 on there because you just got to get used to that. We throw penalties in practice. Sometimes we make up penalties. We say, hey, that was a holding call. So what if you disagree? Line back up. It's 2nd and 20 now, and just learning to play circumstance-free.
Circumstance-free, playing to a standard. Again, they are buzzwords and phrases, but I often say this. In high school sports, they exist for a reason because you're dealing with, let's be real, as athletically gifted as they are, there's still 15 to 18-year-olds that are out there. Like, there's a level of maturity that they're still developing. So you have to put them in those spots and work through them. And by the way, I think it's reasonable to say about Jamar Lovelace, if you knew this could be a challenge, why didn't you do this earlier? I'll also say this. For his predecessor at EC Glass, Jeff Woody, there was a level of feeling out your roster as well before things started to click the next couple of years. Now, I think we're at the point, kind of like with Amherst, kind of like with, I wouldn't put Rustburg and Brookville in this category because one's got a first-year coach, the other's got a second. But I think Amherst is kind of there like Glass, which is their fans want to start seeing some level of tangible results to the fact that they're close, but they want to see them get over the hump. Understandable and reasonable. But I love this, JJ, simulating adversity, just leaning into the fact that you have to bus over to City Stadium every day. And again, if me driving by EC Glass today is any indication and still seeing the turf that's rolled up on the side and the entire track and the field that are all dug up, looks like it might be a while. If anything, I like the fact that you're preparing yourself for the fact that, again, this may be one of those 5-5, 6-4 teams by the end of the year that, quote, nobody wants to play, but nobody wants to play because they put so much adversity and at some point they learn to fight through it and then they become dangerous because of it.
Yeah, I really like what I'm hearing from Coach Lovelace here. I think experience goes a really long way in high school football. Situational awareness, knowing how to deal with situations. And from the sounds of it, I mean, they're throwing every possible situation at them in practice, down to making up penalties for holding calls. I love that because that's going to happen in real games. There's going to be penalties that you are not happy with or even phantom penalties. So to put these guys, already have them in the mindset where they know how these situations go and they'll mentally be prepared on how to deal with them. I think Jamar Lovelace is doing a really great job.
So one of the things that kind of goes hand in hand with this is the concept of focusing on yourself. There is, to a degree, yes, you have to game plan for opponents. You have to learn about what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, going through all that. But all 3 of Nori Hunt, James Taylor, no, not the singer, the lineman for Glass, and then Jalil Holloway, all of them mentioned that is one of the focal points for them is focusing on themselves first.
I say we just got to focus on us first, because if we focus on ourselves first and just put all the effort into our team and not worry about what the other team has, we'll be a great football team this year. And just got to focus and play for each other and not just get unfocused and just off. Because when we play off, we don't play like ourselves. But when we all just buy into one thing and one group, we play as a team that we feel like we could beat anybody that's outside of those.
So that's Nori Hunt talking about focusing on themselves first, but it's something that clearly, and again, yes, there are 3 potential captains that were picked out to represent the Hilltoppers at Seminole District Football Media Days, but you're talking about, I think there's a level of confidence that was built through the resolve at the end of last year, but still needing to test that over the course of an offseason through the season and start to see those results in a tough non-district schedule. And James Taylor elaborated on that as well. The idea of focusing on themselves and what you need to do to get to that point.
Very important, especially now. Beating ourselves is the first thing. We are a really good team. And, the closer we are together, the better we can play as a group. So focusing on ourselves first and, being together as a team help us perform way better than worrying about a team who you don't know anything about really except for the film. So if you're together versus another team that's together, it's just who's more together.
some of that is also getting your play. Let's be real. Some of this is getting to the point where you got the mental toughness to focus on yourself and what you're doing and not making your own mistakes. One of the keys is not beating yourself. And I think for Glass, it's probably a smart philosophy because, again, it sounds elementary, but there was the difference between Glass and the regular season, which got thrashed by JF, and the one that was competitive against them for a good chunk of that game in the playoffs before the Cavaliers pulled away in the second half. So there are clear adjustments that have been made. And some of this is also the fact that, you got Jaleel Holloway, who's their quarterback. It's his senior year. And being more mentally locked in and understanding that that's the case, part of the reason why people talk in high school football about just seniors leading the way is it's for most of them the last time they're going to play organized football. Some of them may go on to Division III. An even smaller percentage will go higher up the ladder than that. But for the most part, this is it. And you start to confront that realization. And so theoretically, you should have a level of more maturity and being more mentally locked in, which this team needs more of those type of players.
Senior job going to be way different. My mental, just me playing for my teammates and me just overcoming so much things this season.
Overcoming, being more mentally locked in. Like some of that's just learning how to do that. And that's where Jamar Lovelace mentioning the value of 2025, I think there's a lot to that, to this Hilltopper team, is taking that and remembering two things. One, they did finish and fight the right way at the end of the year, winning 3 in a row at the regular season and then fighting against JF in their first round playoff loss, but also realizing what got them to that point and trying to avoid it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned they closed the season with 3 straight wins last year, but I think it's also worth mentioning that they also had a couple of very close results earlier in the season. They barely lost to Patrick Henry and GW Danville, so maybe there's a couple plays that go the other way and they win a couple more games. So it's all about finding that mental resilience and being ready for those games, and hopefully the plays go their way this year, and that could be the difference between, 4-6 and 6-4.
Well, and it's why finishing is the word of the year for the Hilltoppers.
The big word, I think, for this year for us is finishing. Last year was a great example. We were, went through so many different things. We were 5-5. We won 2 games kind of in the last minute against Amherst, against Brookville. We lost 2 games late in the fourth quarter against GW and Patrick Henry. So I think it's just a lesson for us to just, there's a very thin line when you're playing such a quality schedule like us. And we could have been a 3-7 team. We could have been a 7-3 team, and we were a 5-5 team. So for us, learning those lessons from last year, carrying over to the off season, and really pushing the execution is what we're looking forward to.
I mean, this is a really challenging non-district schedule for them. Patrick Henry's a 5A school. GW's a really strong school. Salem has the pedigree, even though the last year was arguably one of the worst years for them. And again, reasonable to ask why you would schedule that difficult, knowing you're also in the Seminole District. For one, when you're down a smidge, I think all of a sudden those games become available. JF's an example. It was a lot easier to get them when they were struggling versus now it's harder to find good teams on your schedule. Heritage and LCA are going through the same thing. Either you're in that category or you're so good that you can play up a division or 2 against premier schools like the Richmond and 757 schools do. It's a little different over here. But attitude-wise, I do think there's value to the non-district schedule being difficult because it fosters that type of competitiveness.
I tell guys all the time, I'm like, who do you want us to play? I have some people sometimes say, like, Coach, you're crazy. You play in the Seminole District, and you're playing Salem, and you're playing PH, and you're playing GW. And I'm always saying, who do you want us to play? I think we're EC Glass, and we're going to attract those type of games. And all the reasons why you wouldn't play those games are not reasons I'm comfortable with. So I'd rather play them. I tell our guys all the time, we beat Salem last year, game 1, so we're not that crazy. We were up in the fourth quarter against PH and against GW, so we're not as crazy as we seem. And we were just a few plays away from being 3-0 going into the Seminole District play.
The quote I love from Jamar Lovelace, or the bite, is the reason why you wouldn't play those games are reasons that I'm not comfortable with. Because it means you're leaning into it being difficult and challenging your young men to rise to the occasion and try to bring out the best in them. And truthfully, I do think it may be rocky again at the start for the Hilltoppers, but learning how to fight through that and battle through that, if they can go through it again and stay mentally headstrong, that's where they can become an even more dangerous team in the back half of their schedule. And in particular, when you get into playoff action. Because, it was a little tense for the first 2.5 quarters at Sabre Stadium before JF pulled away from Glass last year. And granted, JF's playing with a backup quarterback in that game. As athletically gifted as Xander Coleman is, he's not Peyton Jackson, who is the starter for the Cavaliers. So there were factors in that, scar tissue from prior playoff losses for JF as well. But all those things compound and can make you prepared. Now, all of a sudden, if you sense that in your Glass and you're going against JF or GW or Salem or whomever in the first round, you're better prepared to knock off that opponent than they were this year. And that is part of where the non-district schedule could pay real dividends. Speaking of getting paid, that is where we go right now in.
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kinda ish. Let's start with number 5.
3 NFL players getting paid over the last few days. We'll rattle them off in no particular order. Darren Waller, 1-year contract with the Carolina Panthers. This is absolutely a wait and see. Waller he passes the eye test in terms of athleticism, and when he's locked in, he can give you great productivity. But his mental game, we just talked about with Glass, you think there's variance over at City Stadium with the Hilltoppers. For Darren Waller, it's all over the place. Good locked in Darren Waller, extremely gifted. Not locked in Darren Waller, out to lunch, not good in the NFL. The flip side to that on a 1-year deal is Von Miller, who is signing with the Dallas Cowboys. This is not the 8-time Pro Bowl Von Miller at the peak of his game. Commanders fans like JJ might remember that from last year. But he's a solid piece. He's a depth piece. If you're the Cowboys, it's worth taking him if you understand that role for him. And then the obvious big deal is Devin Witherspoon, the 3-time Pro Bowl cornerback. 4 years, $132 million extension, 101 of that guaranteed. He's now the highest paid cornerback in NFL history and will probably carry that tag into the season until Quinyon Mitchell potentially breaks that next offseason for the Philadelphia Eagles whenever that time arrives. I think it's a no-brainer with Devin Witherspoon. A guy like that and his productivity are part of the reason why they can take a flyer on a Terrion Arnold, because you've already got number 1 alpha guy that's gotten paid, so you can take a flyer, and if it doesn't work out, you're still in pretty good shape.
Yeah, locking down Devin Witherspoon is huge for the Seahawks. I mean, you mentioned Terrion Arnold. What do you think about it? This is going to be a very, very scary defense. They were one of the best in the NFL last year, obviously leading them to the Super Bowl. And I think with an extension like this, and if Terrion Arnold does indeed end up playing, because, of course, that's still kind of up in the air, I would say the Seahawks are probably the favorites to come out the NFC once again.
I think it's real hard to go against them. I know everyone likes the Rams for the top-heavy play of Garrett and presumably Aaron Donald. I'm just operating under the presumption he'll be back at some point. And then Matt Stafford and Puka Nacua on offense. I just question the depth of the Rams if injuries strike. They are much more likely to crater quickly if 1 or 2 pieces get knocked off the Jenga tower. Whereas Seattle, there is so much depth across the board. I think they're more lethal in that particular category. Meanwhile, speaking of Los Angeles,
number 4.
We didn't get a chance to get to this the other day. The Lakers being sold for $12 billion to Josh Kushner. Yes, he is the brother of Jared Kushner. For those that want the political side, the Virginia's Talk Station app, you can get it there. Bob Iger also in on that bid. He is the former Disney CEO. I can't help but wondering if you go from Mark Walter, where they were looking to spare no expense like they do with the Dodgers and do the same thing with the Lakers. If now all of a sudden you're going with people that are more sound investment people, which is often code for not spending big, does the philosophy flip on a dime once again for the Lakers and maybe in a way that their fans do not want?
Yeah, also worth mentioning, Jeannie Buss and the Buss family actually sold their stakes in the Lakers as well today to Bob Iger. So they have an even larger controlling share. But the name that caught my mind was Josh Kushner, because he is the one who backed Gianni Infantino in the FIFA Forward Enterprise Plan. So it's clear that he obviously wants money. I mean, he's from private equity, so money's going to be at the top of his mind. My only concern for the Lakers is, does he start looking at profits over championships? I mean, you look at the team like the Portland Trailblazers with Tom Dundon as their manager. He's cut costs. He's not flying out G League guys for playoff games, things like that. I don't think we're going to see it to the same extent, because we are talking about the Los Angeles Lakers here. But if there's a big-time extension, they might pass up on it because they're going to look at profits over wins.
Number 3.
Speaking of looking at profits or wins or whatever, I love this from Kurt Signetti. Did you see his comments about Notre Dame? Quote, I'd like to play Notre Dame. They ought to come to our place twice, and we'll go there once since they're not in a conference, end quote. I love the poking the bear. Part of me is because of the pinky out when they drink attitude around Notre Dame to be an independent. And the reason they can stay independent is because they are Notre Dame. So let's let's not get it twisted here. Notre Dame, they are a very big brand. They're the school that if anybody could add, they'd bend over backwards to get the Irish more than anybody else, the SEC, the Big Ten, and they would certainly get an invite to the Super League. But I do find it rather amusing. The ironic thing is Kurt Cignetti talking trash about Notre Dame scheduling. Notre Dame, granted, they have to schedule as hard as they can because they're in an independent and they have to just find games where they can get them. But Indiana has sliced every big-time power program off their schedule. So the comical thing about Kurt Cignetti getting on Notre Dame and scheduling is, isn't it Indiana that is trying to avoid playing the big boys and not Notre Dame?
Yeah, it does feel just a little bit hypocritical here, but at the same time, I love him trying to extend the invite or extend the invitation for Notre Dame to come play him. I mean, they're both in Indiana. We want to see a big rivalry, and these are two of college football's premier teams at this point. I would love to see him play. It's just a matter of if they can work something out.
Number 2.
Richmond Raceway, the Saturday Cup race, was a sellout this past Saturday for the second consecutive year. Couple of things. I think this further solidifies the fact that this is a really good venue for one race date, but it's hard to sell on two because they're billed as the action track. If you like the strategic side-by-side, very short intermediate track for a 0.75 mile venue like Richmond Raceway is, then you can appreciate it the way that I can. But when it's billed more as the action track of short track racing, but it has never really raced like that, that's hard. I think one race date is good. The fact that they've sold out indicates that there is still an appetite in a market for Richmond Raceway. It's down from 2 races to 1. I think we're kind of at where we are with Richmond in that extent. But I like the fact that people are still showing out. And again, I appreciate it for what it is, not what it's advertised falsely to be. Meanwhile,
Number 1.
Chase Briscoe was the dominant car, but Joey Logano gets the victory. I think we're at the point now where even year Logano has to be considered a thing. He's won 3 championships. All of them have been in even years. It's kind of the NASCAR version of the San Francisco Giants back in the day. Were you going to go there, JJ?
That's exactly where my mind went, Ed.
I saw you nodding, and then all of a sudden it's like I took the thunder out of your head.
No, I mean, think about it, 2010, 2012, 2014. Those are the even number years. I had no idea NASCAR had a similar thing with Joey Logano going. That's really interesting.
Well, and some people would say he's very like San Francisco. I disagree because he's a married man with multiple kids. But, hey, to each his or her own. Also, I think, being around Joey Logano is probably better than being around San Francisco. I've been there recently. They're bigger cities I would rather visit than San Francisco, and there are a lot of them. But he's clearly come on strong, and Penske as an organization, they have been strong. I don't know if they quite have the speed that Gibbs has at the intermediates, which make up the bulk of the 10-race NASCAR playoffs. But there's enough there where you have to take them seriously as a title threat. More on that when we return in part 2 of Covering the Commonwealth, plus the Virginia Tech Hokies. But when we return, Billy Napier, pleased with the scrimmage. Is Shane Metlin, DNROnline.com? We'll ask him next here in the Fast Lane.
Mark Dalton here with Terry Volkswagen. Get ready to fall head over heels for the perfect VW SUV. One size doesn't fit all, though, and that's why Volkswagen has an SUV for everyone. From the compact and affordable Volkswagen Taos to the tech-packed Tiguan and the spacious Volkswagen Atlas. No matter which one fits your lifestyle, you'll love the comfort, performance, and safety. Stop by Terry Volkswagen on Forest Road in Lynchburg or check us out online at terryvw.com. Terry Volkswagen. You'll love our cars.
Every Saturday night, after the Hill City Howlers play ball at City Stadium, the best fireworks in the region light up the Lynchburg sky. It's the perfect way to end a perfect night. Baseball, family, and a show you won't forget. Get your tickets now at hchowlers.com. That's hchowlers.com. Howl out loud.
Lunchtime just got an upgrade. Stop by Macadoo for our $8.95 weekday special and grab a legendary sandwich at an unbeatable price. Choose from your favorite classics to Coney Island, Betty Bop, Ragtime, or Stogie. Classic sandwiches packed with savory meats and flavors in between fresh bread. Make it a meal by pairing your sandwich with a sidekick, a warm cup of soup, or crispy chips. Great food, cozy vibes, and the best deal in town.
It's time to share great food and fun. Just to be there, the only one. Just to be there at Macadoo's.
We'll see you at the Do's.
Hi, I'm Randy Trost with Trost Law. We've seen a lot since 1982. One new issue is an increasing number of uninsured drivers. Unfortunately, when these drivers are at fault for an accident, there's a higher likelihood that they'll flee from the scene, leaving you with a potential mess. So in shopping for your auto insurance policy, please keep in mind that strong, uninsured motorist coverage can protect you from this headache. And if you've been injured in a motor vehicle accident, call us at 777-HURT and visit trostlaw.com.
Hey gang, this is Bud Foster, former defensive coordinator for the Virginia Tech Hokies. Join me for Foster and Friends, Saturday 9 to 10 a.m. on VTRN Sports 93.3 FM.
Come join the chat or give us a piece of your mind. JJ Hendrickson 27 and Fastlane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Pleased with enough of it. That at least seemed to be the tone from Billy Napier at his press conference discussing the recent scrimmage for the JMU Dukes and what we get to recap right now in
It's time for your teams and topics. Covering the Commonwealth, a look at teams and topics from around the Commonwealth. Let's start with the JMU Dukes.
DNRonline.com's Shane Metlin. He is joining us here in the Fast Lane. Shane, great to be speaking with you. Overall, did you get the sense that Billy Napier, not satisfied, but at least pleased with enough of what he saw out of the scrimmage for the JMU Dukes the other day, particularly their level of physicality?
Yeah, I think that, that's kind of typically what you hear from coaches this time of year when they do get to see some of these guys on the field in a scrimmage, in a game speed situation for the first time. But yeah, not necessarily surprising, but when the new head coach, new staff, and so many new players, it's always interesting to kind of hear what they have to say about getting to see them in that situation.
So you mentioned things that are interesting and seeing in that situation. Is there more clarity in terms of depth chart projections, not just at quarterback, but beyond? Or is this the type of scrimmage that you believe was more to see if they're absorbing the level of physicality that Billy Napier historically has wanted and driven out of his teams?
I mean, I think there is getting to be some more clarity when it comes to that. It's hard to say. I mean, sometimes you don't know exactly how much they want you to know, or maybe they're misdirecting you a little bit. But, it seems like they definitely, you mentioned the quarterback situation. They definitely seem to have narrowed it down to two at this point with Camden Coleman and J.C. Evans, which is narrowed down quite a bit from where they were in the spring. So, they're at least making some progress there. And I think it seems like in some other spots like wide receiver and places where there might have been some questions that they maybe are kind of figuring out where guys are going to fit.
So you referenced the quarterback battle in position. Everybody's wondering about that. Is this more about waiting until next week or even game week to announce this and seeing a little bit more? How close are you feeling that we are to getting some kind of direction on that?
I don't know for sure, when we'll necessarily get any kind of announcement. You never quite know. I mean, I think back to a few years ago with first year JMU was in FBS, and we all really kind of figured Todd Centeio was a starter, but they didn't announce that until they announced the starting lineup on the video board game day. So you never quite know. I do feel like they've legitimately started to narrow it down. Guys have separated themselves. It was so wide open, not that long ago that I think any indication we get that they're down to two people is significant.
You referenced that. We're touched on the offense quite a bit. Your colleague Katie Harper's got a great piece about the IQ defensively for the JMU Dukes. How much of that is the fact that, of the areas that were gutted by the transfer portal, it seemed like there's enough back on defense? How much of it is just familiarity and quickly picking up the defensive system?
I think it's a little bit of both. There are, a couple guys, KJ Flo and some guys like that are back and who really know JMU, know some of the things that they're asked to do. But I think it also is, the strategy you see from programs like JMU in the portal where, not necessarily loading up on guys who have fallen back from the Power 5 level and getting more guys who have played a lot of football, even if it was at, FCS, even Division II, Division III. There's a lot of those guys on the roster. And I think, if they've proven what they can do athletically, they've also played all those snaps at, not the same level, but, playing football there's some value in just being on the field.
DNRonline.com and Shane_DNR Sports for Shane Metlin with us here in the Fast Lane. Braving the distractions. Is that your family, by the way, behind you?
Yeah.
No problem. I got 2 8-year-old boys. I cannot wait for school to begin tomorrow. So I'm in a unique boat of relatability.
Yeah.
Now to the Virginia Cavaliers.
With JerryRatcliffe.com founder and contributor, Jerry Hootie Ratcliffe. Hootie, great to be speaking with you. We heard it from Tony Elliott at his press conference today. And also, you wrote about it, about Tony Elliott loving where his team sits heading towards game week, which, believe it or not, that's next week because it's next Saturday when Virginia and NC State get ready to square off in Charlottesville. Hootie, first of all, were you surprised at how praiseworthy Tony Elliott was toward where this team is as we're on the cusp of game week for the Hoos?
Not really, Ed. I mean, he's been pretty fired up since the beginning of camp, and he's told us several times about how this is the most depth he's ever had here at Virginia, and maybe the most depth that any team has ever had at Virginia. There's talent everywhere. I can't really find a weakness on this team, and they're very healthy. They've got really good chemistry. The team likes to work. He said they're much further along in this training camp than they were a year ago when they had a lot of issues with discipline about making stupid penalties and doing things that would get him really fired. We often heard him screaming at the team last year about this time, but he's pretty delighted with where they stand as they break up camp Wednesday and start working heavily on NC State on Friday.
One of the things that stood out to me in listening to Tony Elliott speak about the team and speak at the press conference earlier today is reiterating that they try not to run off players at Virginia and that they stick with them. How much of that is part of why he likes where the team is in terms of, with that attitude, you may not be able to flip some bad guys and get some upgraded players, but the flip side, it seems like you have a good chance to have a high floor and a lot of depth because you stick with guys that are developmental. Maybe the idea of what Clemson fans wish Clemson was.
Yeah, well, I think some of that he was talking about when he got here, that he honored the scholarships that Bronco Mendenhall had given. Some of those players might not necessarily have been people he would have felt like fit his system, but decided to keep them around. And in a lot of instances, it paid off. But yeah, he's pretty good about that. I think he gives kids second chances as long as it's something too atrocious. But he's a big believer in kids and tries to work with them. And a lot of it's just because of the culture. He doesn't believe in bringing in kids and putting them in a position to fail where they might just be football only and not very worried about academics. And he knows that just isn't going to work here. So he tries to avoid those kind of situations.
JerryRatcliffe.com, and Jerry Hootie Ratcliffe is the one whose work you see most frequently at JerryRatcliffe.com. Veteran UVA reporter is with us in the fast lane. Hootie, a pleasure to speak with you. We'll wrap it up on this one. We've touched on the offense quite a bit. Cam Robinson, it seems like they're playing it relatively close to the vest. Am I reading into it that he may not start, but it seems like the type of he may be on a pitch count when the season opens next Saturday against NC State?
Yeah, they've been kind of quiet about exactly where he stands. He's participating in the 7-on-7 drills. He'll get into the contact on Friday, I think. So far, he's passed every test, and I think they're very hopeful that he'll be in game shape when it comes around. But they're also going to be smart about it because they don't want to jeopardize not only the rest of his season, but his football future by rushing him back when he's not ready to play.
Good idea, good call, much like going to JerryRatcliffe.com and subscribing to get the great insight into the Virginia Cavaliers. Hootie, thank you for your time in the fast lane.
Great to be with you, Ed. See you soon.
Now to, just for you haters, left hand up the Commanders.
Candy Waller, Madam President of Bowie TV Sports. She is with us in the fast lane. Seawall, we will get to the game action itself in a moment, but did Jaden Daniels envision that he would become a punchline by the end of the weekend on social media for the jersey request down at LSU?
I'm pretty sure he did not. But he has a good sense of humor, so I'm sure he got a little bit of kick out of some of those memes as well.
Am I off base in believing this is less likely to be an issue within the Commanders, particularly within their locker room, where players often defer and try to stay out of someone else's business?
Oh, yeah. I mean, as Coach Quinn mentioned to us yesterday when he spoke with the media, Jayden Daniels is having a great camp. And as he said in his post, his Instagram post, which he had in the stories, and addressing this, is that he's been locked in on camp. And with training camp, which I'm sure Commanders fans are happy to hear, I do not anticipate this being a distraction at all for the team.
Candy Waller, Madam President of Bowie TV Sports, with us here in the Fast Lane. Seawall, is the bigger challenge for the Washington Commanders quarterback room not Jayden Daniels in the LSU situation, but the fact that Marcus Mariota suffered what is not as severe as it could have been in terms of a knee injury, but one that does knock him out the rest of the preseason?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, now it's kind of the, how they divvy up the reps at quarterback. They will have, Coach Quinn, at least as of yesterday, has communicated that they did not plan on bringing in another quarterback. So they're going to go with, Jayden Daniels, Sam Hartman, and Ethan K, as I like to call it. And so we'll see how this works out, especially as we come up with preseason game 2, because I had anticipated that both Jayden and Marcus would get a lot of reps. We knew that Marcus was going to get reps, of course, in preseason game 1, but with the injury, he wasn't able to complete the game. So this will be interesting. They'll have 2 padded practices this week, which I'm sure will be weighing in on how much activity Jayden gets on Saturday for the preseason game 2 against the Lions.
Other standouts from the Washington Commanders in that preseason game against the Miami Dolphins. If you have, Candy's, corner, if you will, I'm trying to come up with some alliterations, just not flowing. Who are your 3 biggest standouts?
I'm going to go with who the media had an opportunity to talk with after the game. So Quan Martin has had a quiet camp, and, it's a numbers game when it comes to the safety group, but he did take a play in preseason game 1. We don't know if that will help the case, keep him on the Commanders' 53-man roster when it's all said and done. But he did make a play, and that's what you want to see. I'm sure that the coaches want to take a look at. And then the 2 running backs, Kaytron Allen and Robert Henry Jr. had great games on Friday night. Jeremy McNichols, veteran running back Jeremy McNichols, is dealing with a quad injury that will have him out for a few weeks. So you guys got to think about where is that going to leave him, if these rookies keep showing out like this in preseason games.
Very valid question, and the lady who has the answers, Madam President of Bowie TV Sports, is joining us here in the Fast Lane. Seawall, we're glad to connect. Thank you so much for your time today here in the Fast Lane, and we look forward to speaking again soon as the preseason keeps rolling along.
Absolutely, and thank you so much. I'll be talking to you guys again soon.
It is our pleasure. Madam President Candy Waller of Bowie TV Sports. When we return, the Hill City Howlers, NASCAR at Richmond, and the move that many people anticipated is finally official, plus Virginia Tech, their own official move. They're officially looking for a new jersey company, some manufacturer apparel. Andy Bitter on all of that when we return here in the Fast Lane. Summer is here, and there's no better time to find a place you'll love to call home. Whether you're looking for a cozy apartment, spacious townhome, or a quiet single-family home, Brownstone Properties has options designed for your lifestyle and budget. Enjoy the season with comfort, convenience, and peace of mind. Don't spend another summer searching. Let Brownstone Properties help you find your perfect home today. Visit brownstoneproperties.com or call 434-385-1025.
Brownstone Properties, where home is at the heart of everything we do.
Hey, Hokie fans! Each offseason, you don't see or hear much. So let TechSideline.com be your eyes and ears for what's really going on with the Virginia Tech Hokies. From basketball roster and staff construction to the buildup of the James Franklin era, we take you behind the scenes of the Hokies. Get exclusive recruiting deep dives, expert roster analysis, and insider updates you won't find anywhere else. Stay ahead of the game this upcoming offseason. Subscribe to TechSideline.com for $12 a month or $120 per year. TechSideline.com. All Hokies, all the time, period.
Hey, small to medium business owners, if you're frustrated with slow IT support, high costs, or paying for services you just don't use, it's time for a change. Hi, I'm Colt with We Fix Stupid Computers. We provide reliable on-site and remote support tailored for businesses just like yours. And we go beyond just fixing problems. We empower your staff with real tech knowledge so they can work smarter every day. From repairs to training to full IT support, we save you time, stress, and money. Call We Fix Stupid Computers, 434-525-8590, where smart support meets real savings.
Hey guys, this is Chad Hassan with ASeaofRed.com. ASeaofRed.com is the #1 trusted independent news source for Flames sports. You can get access to premium content such as the Rumor Mill by becoming an ASeaofRed.com club member for only $84 a year. If you are a diehard Liberty Flames fan and want all the inside scoop, along with coverage of recruiting and all the major sporting events over at LU, visit ASeaofRed.com. Go Flames.
Come join the chat or give us a piece of your mind. JJ Hendrickson 27 and Fastlane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
We'll get to the baseball in a moment, but something else to kick off.
It's time for your teams and topics. Covering the Commonwealth, a look at teams and topics from around the Commonwealth. Let's start with the Hill City Howlers.
That's right. You've got a couple of different entertainment options that are coming to City Stadium October 9th, the Taylor Swift Experience. October 10th, Homegrown, a Zach Brown Band tribute experience. Jason Prill, broadcaster for the Hill City Howlers, is with us in the fast lane. Jason, first of all, I know we're looking toward the end of the season, but we've touched on how City Stadium and the Hill City Howlers are trying to use this as a venue that the community can appreciate and enjoy year-round. How much does this fit that mission?
Yeah, I think it's exactly what we're trying to do as a ball club and as a front office and as an organization. We're trying to make the ballpark useful for all year round and find fun events, unique events, different events that we may not have elsewhere in Lynchburg or even in the surrounding communities. And so by bringing in a Taylor Swift experience and a Zach Brown Band experience, we think it's going to be a fun time for families and friends and whoever else you want to bring with you, your coworkers, whatever you want to come out and enjoy the ballpark, but even more so just enjoy some fun, enjoy some community, and enjoy some good music.
When we last spoke with Jason Prill, Hill City Howlers broadcaster, he's at JassPrill19 on Twitter and Instagram. They are at HC Howlers on those platforms, or just a .com to check them out on the good old World Wide Web. We mentioned the distractions, trying to weather them. Myrtle Beach and Charleston, they're in the middle of that trip. They've already wrapped up 6 games against Myrtle Beach. They've got 6 more coming up against Charleston. Overall, your assessment of how this relatively young group of Howlers have mitigated those distractions with another 3-win, 3-loss series?
Yeah, you know what, Ed? I think that was a pretty solid series for them. We didn't know what to expect with all the draft guys coming in, and I think we saw some of that veteranship of having played in college and having traveled to some fun locations, some areas that may bring about their own level of distraction. So they were probably a little bit more used to playing an environment like Myrtle Beach, to where when you're away from the ballpark, you want to have a little bit more fun. You might be able to get away from baseball for a little bit, but they were able to lock in and play a pretty solid series against a decent Myrtle Beach squad.
You mentioned the way they played against Myrtle Beach. Overall, pitching more consistent, pretty good for the most part. Hitting, it was, pun intended here, hit and miss with them. Is that the ingredient you'd like to see a little bit more, in particular, just adjusting to the level of pitching, which is a step up for a lot of these players?
Yeah, I think it's going to take some time for these hitters to find their groove. We saw it last year when the draft guys got brought into Lynchburg. It was, for the last little bit of the season, kind of a tough slide for a lot of them. When you look at a guy like Bennett Thompson a few years ago, he had 3 hits, and then all of a sudden the next year he hit over 350, and now he's shooting up the Cleveland organization after he got drafted in 2024. So these last few weeks are kind of hard to tell for the draft guys because they're adjusting to a new level. They just got shut down from their college programs and are trying to ramp back up quickly to catch up to speed and to kind of get back into game day mentality, which when you're not in that every single day, it's kind of hard to find again. So there's a lot of growing, there's a lot of learning, there's a lot of development that's happening in these final few weeks. But I would assume that by the time we get toward the final 2 weeks of the season, they're going to be back into full swing and, no pun intended, firing on all cylinders.
I like it. You can lean into the puns. We're all about that in the fast lane. Jason, you know how cheesy and ridiculous I am.
You said it, not me, Ed.
Oh, that's the not so nice zinger on which to end our chat with Jason Prill today in the fast lane. It pains me that he's actually really honest about that. So no real hard feelings there. Meanwhile,
Now to NASCAR.
at Richmond with the man who has helped me reframe the way I view a NASCAR Cup Series race and race weekend at Richmond Raceway, Michael Massey of FrontStretch.com stepping into the fast lane. Michael, glad to be speaking with you. First of all, I give you a hat tip because I think this was a solid race for a Richmond race. Was this a B+, A-, or better race? No, but a B to B-, sure, I'll give it that. You had comers and goers, different strategies, and a lot of it is because of you. So take a victory lap, pun intended here, about reframing this as a very short intermediate, not the short track that it's falsely advertised to be.
Yeah, well, thank you for that credit, Ed. I don't know if I deserve that much praise for it, but yeah, it was a good race. I'd say, it was kind of a B-, I guess. I feel like I was more entertained last year. But this one has some good stuff happening in it. I mean, like Chase Briscoe chasing down Joey Logano at the end, like he came so close to getting there. And like you had some beating and banging, honestly. I remember at one point, Josh Berry forced 3 wide on Denny Hamlin, and Denny did not like that too much and used the old chrome horn the next corner on Berry to get him all out of sorts. So yeah, there's definitely some action, a little bit of action happening at what used to be called the action track. I really enjoyed this Saturday night.
So you mentioned the two that were at the front of the field for most of this event, Joey Logano and Chase Briscoe. Starting with Joey Logano, is it cheesy because it's cheesy, or is it cheesy because it's kind of true? Even year Joey Logano back.
It's a thing. I mean, look, if something keeps happening over and over, a trend keeps happening over and over, it's dumb to ignore it, right? To not put any stock into it. And now we've seen Joey Logano have a typical bad start to the season, come out and dominate 2 races as of late, really get himself up in the point standings. That's like 6 races ago. I think he wasn't even in the chase. And now he's all the way up to 9th in the standings, I want to say. And if he keeps climbing, going to New Hampshire this week, that's another great track for him. Daytona, he's pretty good there as well. It's possible he could get up to maybe that 6th place spot and have a real shot at this championship. It would just be so funny if they changed the whole format because of the way he kept winning titles. And if he went out and won the title in the first year returning to the chase, there's some humor in that.
On the flip side of that battle for the lead is Chase Briscoe. He's still 15-1 to win the NASCAR championship. Is that worth a gamble? And I'm not advocating people bet, but the I guess the thought exercise I'm trying to ask about Chase Briscoe is more this. Is Chase Briscoe flying under the radar as a championship threat, given how he's been there before, kind of missed on it last year, and then he's with Joe Gibbs Racing, which you could argue just a tick above Penske in terms of manufacturer and car reliability?
Yeah, I think the Toyotas in general have been the car to beat this year. Chase Briscoe, yeah, if you're not considering him a championship threat, then I don't know what you're thinking. The guy, he tends to get better later in the season. Most of his wins last year were in the second half of the year. He has won the last 2 Southern 500s, which is the opening race of the chase. So, he could go out there, win in the 3rd year in a row, and just make a statement right away that he's here to win this title. If I were a betting man, that's not a bad bet. Like you said, I definitely think he's going to win a couple times once the chase starts and be a threat in there. He's going to get top 5 in points. I'm going to guarantee you top 5 in points from Briscoe, but he might even get that title.
Michael Massey, frontstretch.com, with us in the fast lane. Massey, I will let you off the hook on your Ty Gibbs disparaging remarks under the one thought that it's actually true, that it didn't seem like he was able to overcome that speeding penalty. He rallied moral victory because of it, but he's beyond celebrating moral victory.
Yeah, Ty Gibbs probably should have had top 5 on the night. I think he had top 5, at least top 10 pace. He did come back to finish 15th, but it was just, it was too good not to post. The fact that he sat there in the media scrum the day before, and when asked about last year's race where he had 2 speeding penalties, he said, "I don't want to bring up last year." And then he was asked, what did you learn from that? And he said, not to speed. And then sure enough, under green flag pit stops, he gets a speeding penalty, and any chance he had at winning that race was just out the window from there, because he was pretty much just stuck a lap down from that point. Yeah, it was just look, it was no disrespect to Ty. He's a really good driver. He's a 2-time winner now on the Cup circuit. But just the hammer down that point and then to go out there and make the mistake, it kind of felt like his veteran teammate, Denny Hamlin. And maybe when Denny retires, Ty will take over that joke of being the one that speeds on pit road all the time.
We'll wrap it up on this. Connor Zilisch signing with Hendrick Motorsports today, official. Is this more just it was a formality and people are looking at it because of just how talented he is, not because there's really any shock to it?
Yeah. It had been rumored for, first the rumor was it was between him and Corey Day. And that's really the question mark I have in all of this, is what happens to Corey Day now, because it seemed like he was primed to be the next Cup star at Hendrick. And now with their lineup pretty shored up for years to come, I think he'd have to go elsewhere if he's going to go to Cup. But yeah, Zilisch, it makes sense. Rick Hendrick's going to go out and get a young talent that he thinks is good. We've seen him do it before. But still, it's just crazy that I don't know how Trackhouse feels in all of this, because Justin Marks found, Connor when he was a kid and really developed him up the ranks and got him to the Cup Series. And then you're not even done with your rookie season and you're already going to be, signing contracts to jump ship. So I don't know how fans are going to look at that for Connor, but it's definitely a better opportunity. I mean, Trackhouse Racing has not been that good this year. Hendrick Motorsports hasn't been amazing this year, but there's always, that they're always going to get their wins. They're always going to be in the title fight. So this obviously sets Connor up much more for his future.
Michael, thank you for your time in the fast lane. We're grateful for it, and we appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Ed. It's always a good time to come on. It was always great to be at the home track and covering the race from there.
Michael Massey of frontstretch.com with us here in the fast lane.
And last but not least, or maybe least, the Virginia Tech Hokies.
TechSideline.com senior staff writer Andy Bitter, generous enough to join us here in the fast lane. He's at Andy Bitter VT on Twitter. We're at Fastlane Ed Lane on our socials. Andy, good to be chatting with you. We are appreciative of your time. For Virginia Tech, we're at that point now where you're nearing the end of scrimmages, you're nearing the end of practice. Are we getting closer to having things more established, particularly on the unit that has my attention the most, the offensive line?
I think they're getting closer. I don't know if that means that the group will necessarily be settled. I think they're going to come up with a starting 5, and if that doesn't work, they're going to adjust from there. And even if it does, they do have a good idea. I think they have a few more pieces this year that they can mix and match if they need to. So, is it Justin Terry at left tackle? Is it Logan Howland there? If one of those guys doesn't win the job, does he move over to right tackle? Montavious Cunningham slides inside where he's played guard previously. How many guys can they rotate in there? Just a lot of questions right now trying to figure things out.
You mentioned the questions overall and just trying to get through those for the offensive line in particular for Virginia Tech. How much is the schematic nature of Ty Howell's offense something that can at least alleviate that concern if you're relying on a running game, which you would think is easier, and then a quick passing game given the plethora of tight ends?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one to answer. A new scheme takes a new learning to go along with it. I know Ty Howell has a tight end on the line type of mentality in the past. I think the biggest thing in that room that helps is that, Matt Moore is in year 2. And yeah, it's a new scheme, but it's the same guy teaching concepts and techniques, and they will operate within that scheme. But having that continuity from one year to the next, and some roster continuity as well, in addition to adding some guys, I think it should be an improved group. It's just a question of how improved.
Andy Bitter VT is his social media account, techsideline.com, the place to keep up with him and his work. Andy, your colleague Chris Coleman has an interesting article up about the wide receivers, particularly Aiden Green and Quayshawn Brown. Is there going to be a pretty steep drop-off in production from them as the indicators are going into the year because of the nature of this offense, in particular the offensive line?
Possibly. I think, Aiden Green has never really had a quarterback throwing him the ball a ton throughout his career. Dealing with Grant Wells initially, and then Kyron Thrones. I think Grant Wells was there his first year. I'm trying to remember exactly the timeline of that whole thing. But it wasn't really a pass-first offense. I think, Grunkemeyer is more of a pure passer than he's ever had. Quayshawn Brown came on late last year at Duke and had pretty good numbers. But, I think they can both improve on those, especially since, I think Luke Reynolds is going to have a big year, but I'm trying to figure out who the next receiver is. Maybe Marlon Jackson. He was injured in the offseason and is back now. Maybe one of the younger guys or the unproven guys beyond that at wide receiver. But I think those top two have separated themselves pretty far from the field at receiver, and I would expect pretty good numbers from them this year.
Andy Bitter, you had the enviable task of being at FanFest yesterday at the Beamer Lawson Indoor Practice Facility at Virginia Tech. First of all, please tell me you were able to enjoy some of the cookies that were sponsoring the defensive backs.
I didn't see any cookies that were there, any crumble cookies, but it's interesting that they are sponsoring the autograph signing of the defensive back. So they are going to sell every inch of this place, I feel like, going forward.
I mean, they are, but shouldn't that be part of the promotion, is getting people hooked on their product?
I mean, at least have some for the media there. I mean, that's the very least if you want to get some promotion out there.
Oh, no question. I mean, Andy Bitter VT was already lighting up with it. Imagine the rave reviews they could have gotten if there was a taste test option. Sounds like they missed the boat on that one, but they didn't talk to the Virginia Talk Radio Network about great marketing and advertising ideas, which is why our own JJ is shaking his head. From that to the event itself, do you have the ability to gauge the level of fan interest compared to prior years? Was it higher, and was the buzz what you would expect at something like this?
I think it was actually one of the smallest crowds that I've seen at the Fan Fest. They've cut, a couple of reasons behind that. They've cut down the time to an hour. I think it used to be an hour and a half doing it before. Frankel wasn't signing autographs. He was taking pictures with fans. And I know a lot of fans go there with like a poster or football that they'd like to get signed. So I don't know if that factored into it. Assistant coaches were not there. In the past, those guys have been milling around and signing autographs as well. And, when you have people like Bud Foster, Casey Price, and, people the coaches or fans want to see, I think that might be more enticing for them to come out. But it was a fine turnout. It was real quick, an hour, wham, bam, and they're done. And I think that if they did it a little bit longer, I bet you they could draw a better crowd.
Andy Bitter VT is his Twitter account, techsideline.com. The ways to keep up with him as he is with us here in the Fast Lane. Andy, we would be remiss if we did not ask you about your softball colleague, who apparently is a dirty player from what you mentioned at Andy Bitter VT on Twitter, but not dirty when it comes to how he acts professionally. Evan Hughes, TSL alum of the Fast Lane and covering the Commonwealth. He has appeared on that many moons ago, back when he was not nearly as busy and as status-filled as he is right now. Jokes aside, how happy are you for Evan and for Virginia Tech fans to be treated to more of Evan Hughes?
Well, yeah, I mean, Barry's been a good company man there and brought up through the ranks here. Now, let me clarify. I did not think he's a dirty player. I think that he likes to talk on the field. If some other opponent wants to mix it up with him, he's not just going to go quietly into that good night. He is willing to throw it back at them a little bit. So can get a little feisty at times, but he gets fired up on that stuff. And you see that on some of his calls as well with Virginia Tech. So, I know Bill Roth is a proud alum, Evan being a proud alum of that, program that they have there, the SMA program. And, it's really good advertising for that. You can go here, get a good job right out of it, and stay here if you want.
Andy, we will wrap it up on this one. The news that may have slipped under the radar at the end of last week, but Virginia Tech issuing a new RFP for a new athletic apparel sponsor. Their current contract with Nike expired back in June. Going to market, looking for a 10-year deal. What is the market for the Hokies in this regard?
It's tough to say. I think maybe the market would feel a little bit better after this year. But, right now there's a ton of excitement around James Franklin. And he's a known product. And, if you're pumping the money that you're putting into this program like Tech has before, I think they're going to get back to being good. So, maybe it's an opportunity out there for some of these places to get on when the stock is pretty low and on its way up. We'll see what kind of money is out there. I mean, I feel like really super rich apparel deals they're not necessarily handing those out a ton unless you're switching companies and you're a new customer at a place and they have to overpay to get you. We'll see if it's just strictly for cash or if they like the Nike brand so much that they stick with it. But they're certainly opening it up, which is the first time they've done that in a long time. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Andy Bitter VT, that's his Twitter account, TechSideline.com, and the TSL podcasts, as they have multiples that drop each week. Just subscribe so you don't have to worry about remembering which one is which. You'll get them all, which is what we do and recommend that you do as well. Andy, thank you for your time today here in the Fastlane. We will keep it locked to TechSideline.com as many of our listeners will migrate from Fastlane, Edlane on our socials and podcast platforms over to you guys and get even more great Hokies coverage.
All right. Sounds good.
Andy Bitter with us here in the Fastlane to wrap things up here on W227 BG Timberlake, WVJ Man Lynchburg, WMNA, Gretna Danville Southside. Now on to Freddie and Harry, joined in progress.